Be clear with where you want to go, but flexible in how you get there. If you can just sit down with yourself and understand, why do I want to be healthy, and really grill yourself to get deeper and peel back layers of why do I want to be healthy? Ask yourself why again. Ask yourself why again. Keep going down. When things get hard, when motivation wanes, which things will get hard, behavior
Mm.
change is very hard. Motivation is not always going to be there. What can you call on? Those things, whether it's a rainy day, whether it's travel, whether it's a hard work day, it does not matter. When I think of those things, it pales in comparison to what I want for that and those goals. And so I can show up when it's hard because I know what's happening internally, and that flame is lit of like, no, Kyle, you have a bigger purpose for all of this. And so, as the saying goes, you can bear any how when you know your why. And so again, when
Yeah.
you know your why, you can really grit through a lot of stuff.
Most people think movement costs energy. Kyle Gonzalez says the exact opposite, that movement creates energy. Today's guest is a former D1 basketball player, performance coach, best-selling author, startup executive, and one of the leading voices helping people reclaim their health in a world that's becoming increasingly sedentary. Welcome back to the Perpetual Growth Podcast, the show where we explore the strategies, insights, and stories that help you to continuously grow in your health, wealth, relationships, leadership, and life. Because if something isn't growing, it's dying. If you're enjoying the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with someone committed to becoming the best version of themselves. Today's guest is Kyle Gonzalez. Kyle is the Vice President of Performance and Coaching at COIA, author of the Vitality System and Move, Thrive, and Come Alive, host of the Vitality System podcast, former Division I basketball player and performance coach with more than a decade of experience helping people optimize their health, movement, and overall performance. His work has been featured in Men's Health, NBC News, The Washington Post, and Real Simple. Today, we're going to discuss things like why modern life is making us sick, the movement crisis nobody is talking about, fitness misconceptions, longevity and performance, energy management, leadership through health, daily habits that create vitality, and how to truly thrive instead of simply survive. Kyle, welcome to the Perpetual Growth Podcast.
Wow, what an intro. Great to be here. Excited for the conversation. And always, when I get a chance to talk about health and wellness with great people, I am lit up. So I'm ready.
Me too, my friend. Now, Kyle, you spent years studying health, performance, movement, longevity. I mean, when you hear the word vitality, what does it actually mean in your mind?
Yeah, this is a great question, and one that I've sat with a lot. A lot of my work is built around this word vitality. I have an affinity towards this word, and I think when I think of vitality, one of the definitions that comes to mind is the power giving continuance to life. And so
Mm,
like that to me is just like bringing energy and strength and presence to everything that I do. And so when I think of vitality in my life, it is, can I be present as a father, as a coworker, as a partner? Can I bring strength and energy to what I do? We have a thing at our company I work at, COIA, where we talk about being a thermostat and setting the energy and the temperature in any room that you walk into. And I love that because that is what I try to do, is be a light, be something that is going to set the tone for everybody else around us. And in this health and wellness space, we can't have enough people that are exuding vitality, that are putting this out as an example for other people to follow. And so, hopefully, by science communication, by example, by how I show up, that is something that I exude out as well.
it is for sure, bro. I mean, we were chatting a little bit before, and like I mentioned, I spent 17 years in the health and wellness industry, and you said almost word for word one of the same things that I used to say all the time is like, in my mind's eye, our health and vitality is the foundation to all of our life experiences. It affects all of our interpersonal relationships. It affects our experience of life. It affects our ability to perform in business, our enjoyment. I mean, literally everything is
Yeah.
built on a foundation of outstanding health and vitality. What we put in the body is what comes out. Movement creates, well, I always say emotion creates motion, but movement, we got to keep the gears greased, right? I mean,
Yeah.
why do you feel like so few people experience true vitality today?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question because I think the world we live in now is starting to prioritize like convenience and starting to prioritize sedentary behaviors, and it's by design, and that's actually a good thing. That's a privilege. Back then, it was like evolutionarily, you had to hunt for your food and you had to be outside all the time and you had to be moving. Moving was a necessity.
Yeah.
Now, it's almost a luxury. And so we
Yeah.
work out in air-conditioned gyms. We have like I always laugh because I'm like, we can sit down to exercise now on like recline bikes and things like
Yeah.
that. So everything is becoming a little bit more efficient and convenience based, which again, I think is what we call evolutionary mismatch. Our
Yeah.
bodies are built to move, our bodies are built to be outside. But now,
Yeah.
evolutionarily in modern life, it's like we spend 90 to 95% of our time indoors. We sit to work, we sit to drive to, drive to work, we sit to eat, we sit to watch TV. And so it's like, I think our environment is now designed a little bit for lack of movement when our bodies crave movement in everything that we do. And so sometimes it can feel like going against the grain, going against your environment to really actually inject movement back into your life. And really, you have to be intentional when it comes to that. And so I think it's an environmental problem. Also, mentally, it's like, again, going from scarcity to now abundance. And we're, people in this country and people like you and me have the privilege to have abundance. And I think that's just a privilege in and of itself. But it's like we don't have to, we can click a couple buttons and food will pop up at our door. We can do all of
Yeah.
these things that we just didn't have access to. And it's like, so I try to like challenge myself to be like, Kyle, you can go walk to the grocery store. You don't have to get in the car and drive or
Mhm.
Instacart or whatever these
Mhm.
things. And so all of
Mhm.
that leads to, again, mental shifts in our mindset and how we approach movement as like something that is a checkbox. I did my exercise. Okay, cool. I'm done with movement for the day. As opposed to like, no, movement is just something that should be injected into all of life and it should be
Yeah.
something that flows through our days. And I think we're losing a little bit of touch with that. I'm trying to like bring it all back when it comes to that.
I love it. I always say a body in motion stays in motion, right? Like
Oh,
we
yeah.
gotta keep moving. And I find myself doing those same things. I mean, more than ever, I'm stuck behind a desk too. So we gotta
Yep.
be intentional about creating that space for movement. And like it's not only the movement, but you also said too, getting outside. It's like people look at me like I'm
Yes.
crazy because I live in Arizona, brother. So I mean, we're already in the low hundreds, 105. It'll be 115, and I'll go out on a 3 mile walk. I'm like, hey man. I'm getting my vitamin D. I'm getting my sweat in. I'm getting my moving in.
Yep.
I feel fantastic. Yeah, I'm pretty dang hot when I get back, but nonetheless, still feels
Yep.
great. Body
Mhm.
motion stays in motion, and we got to get outside in the environment and thrive and find ways to have fun doing it. I mean, look for the excuses to do it. Now, tell me this, like, I want to take a step back. Let's go back to
Yep.
you were a Division I basketball player. What
Yep.
lessons from high level athletics still influence your life today?
Oh, yeah. Tons and tons of lessons. I think some practical ones like time management. I
Mm,
think when you're a college student, you almost get introduced to what professional life or all these other areas are like because it's like you have practice, you have study hall, we had to do breakfast as a team, we had film, we had weightlifting, and it's like you got to make sure you got all of your stuff in order because then we travel for games and we have class and then you have a social life. Guess what? You still have to do that. And so it's like trying to manage all of those things. It was great because you kind of had to get things done during certain times. I only had 2 hours to study or do my homework or do all these things. And so it's like if it doesn't fall in this block, there's not even other times that it falls, as opposed to sometimes normal college students, it's like you have ample time to do all of this stuff and it kind of just gets pushed and pushed and pushed. So that was awesome. I think there's just this level of discipline. And I think for me, I was a walk-on. So I was not highly touted recruit. I was not this guy that was like coming in full scholarship and, had the red carpet laid out for me. I had to work for everything. I had to work for a spot on the team. And so that taught me this valuable lesson of like, you have to show up for yourself first and be consistent and make sure that you are making sure you're staying disciplined and doing all the things you need to do. I didn't have the room for error to not push myself at practice, to not be on time and be punctual, to not push myself during our lifts that we had, to not study film and know the plays like the back of my hand, to not get
Yeah.
good grades. Like all of these things helped me then not only make the team, but be a valuable part of that team. When other people maybe had a little bit more rope because it's like they're a big recruit, they're on scholarship, they can be a little bit lax. So for me, that was a big lesson of just like, hey, take care of what you can control and leave the rest to everybody else. I know I can control my energy, my effort, my attitude, my punctuality. And so those things I really try to keep in my domain. And then I think lastly, it's like you got to be adaptable. You got to be flexible, and not just in life, but like mentally as well. There was times where I did all of the work, I did all of the things, and guess what? I sat at the end of the bench. Like
Yeah.
some things are out of your control. In life, you'll have all the qualifications, the resume, and guess what? You might not get the job. When it comes to also just being flexible, it's like, okay, maybe we have games here and there. I missed Christmas with my family a couple years because we had games. I had to travel during spring break because we had games, and all of those things were great. But it's like you trade off certain things, social life, having time doing certain personal things. All of that, you have to be flexible. You have to understand, what trade-offs you're making. And so yeah, for me, it's all valuable lessons that I take into life today of like now I know when I go into my own health and time management, it's like I can be a little bit more flexible. I have an 18-month-old right now. You better be
Uh,
flexible with an 18-month-old because it's like you
yeah.
won't have 2 hours to work out. You won't have time to lay on the couch and read for an hour. It's like there's always something you need to be doing. But that didn't discourage me. It just means, hey, Kyle, maybe the 2 hours working out and spending on myself is like now 30 minutes, but it's actually just more streamlined in what I'm doing, how I'm doing, and all that. So, tons of lessons, loved my
Yeah.
experience. And I think I still carry that walk on mentality into a lot of different things that I do.
Yeah. What I love about that is that harmony between um, structure and discipline and
Yeah.
adaptability and fluidity. Because
Yep.
I think that's one of the biggest challenges. I mean, one of many challenges that people face so often is they try to take the structure that served them yesterday and carry it into the life that we're living today. And guess what? We're different people. We're having different lives. We have different responsibilities. Now you're taking care of another little human. Like stuff's got to evolve,
Yeah.
and we got to evolve with it. Now, I saw what I'm assuming on your finger is an aura ring, and I
Yep.
mean, yeah, we got to track our performance all day long. I mean,
Yep.
tell me
Yep.
when did you first become fascinated by human performance?
Oh, this goes way back. So when I was a kid, I was like very curious about the human body. My mom worked in the health space. My father passed away of cancer, but that made me kind of a little bit more aware of like, hey, there's these things that like can happen to us from a health perspective that some are preventative. My dad died of colon cancer. I don't think anybody should die of colon cancer. Get screened early. Like that's the simple solution for that. And you can catch that. So it led me to believing what do I have in my control that I can, start to understand how to improve my health. That was one thing. And then you become an athlete, and it's like, I wasn't the strongest, I wasn't the fastest, I wasn't the biggest, but I was willing to work hard and I was willing to learn. And so for that, this is a long time ago, but I was doing cold baths before they were cool. I was,
Yeah.
trying supplements and things like, all of those things way before like our day and age, or, kids that age shouldn't even be diving into that stuff. But for me, it was how can I get an extra edge, but also how can I do things that I know everybody else isn't doing that can give me
Hmm.
a little bit of a leg up. And so
Hmm.
with that, that got me into some of these spaces where it was like, oh wow, like I didn't know that you could get so much ahead on nutrition, or I didn't know that sleep meant so much. Like if I just get this much sleep, I could be better at this. And so for me, that led into trying to be a better athlete, which when I got to school, I was a walk-on. So like I picked my own classes, I did all of that. I didn't have like someone helping me out with all that. Some basketball players, I don't want to get a stigma here, but it's like they pick comms major or whatever's easiest and they don't really think
Hmm.
about what they're majoring in. For me, I was like, exercise science for sure. I love this topic. I'm passionate about it. I went to all of my classes. We actually were required to sit in the front row. It's a basketball rule, but I loved it. I take notes. I'm doing all the things. and I ended up being the fitness, strength, and conditioning student of the year at my school, which was
Ah,
awesome. I got my
yeah.
master's in kinesiology, but like I was the health nerd, and that just to me, what's so fascinating about health and nutrition and sleep, there's just so much to learn, and there's so much that we
Mm,
don't know. And so the space is ever evolving. And so I don't ever feel like my thirst will be quenched, which is great.
mm,
I can just keep drinking from the faucet of knowledge and keep learning. And it's just awesome to me. Like that is something that fires me up is that I can keep learning and I can keep communicating that out to people to live better lives, to help out. And so that's kind of the evolution of how it all started for me.
I love that. There's so many parallels in our story and then so many divergent tracks. It's like we're
Yeah.
talking about, man, I spent nearly 2 decades in the health and wellness industry. I didn't finish college. But what started it for me was on paper, I'm legally disabled. I had herniated disc in my back. I had back surgery. It was
Uh,
a somewhat of a genetic predisposition that set me up from compression related injury, which in my case was football. But it
yeah.
became, that pain became became my passion, my purpose. And
Yep.
what I always found interesting, and I feel like I'm hearing the same parallel, is like, when I first started studying under various reputable certifying bodies in the training and health space, I'd study one, and then you'd read articles that completely contradicted the study there. And
Yep.
I ended up studying and certifying under virtually every major reputable certifying body because my whole thing was like, wait, I got to put these puzzle pieces together. I
Yep.
went on, completed doctorate level medical terminology so I could communicate on a clinical level with other healthcare practitioners, level one, level two certified kinesiotaping technician, like list went on. But
Yep.
I was a love and thirst to learn. But even more importantly, what I see in your message is the application. And one thing I
Yep.
love about your message is you're not just talking about exercise. It's much more holistic. And it was another one
Yep.
of those things that for me was like, number one, it starts up here.
Yep.
This is the first thing that we got to overcome is the mind.
Yep.
And then that body emotion stays in motion. We got to get the right fuels. You talk about sleep. All these sciences are still evolving. I mean, we know as much about the body as we do the universe in many contexts. It's like we're still just
Yeah.
scratching the surface. Now, you've talked about how we fundamentally disconnected from how humans are really designed to live.
Yep.
So, what, like, why do you feel like people are more informed
Yep.
and also less healthy than ever?
Yeah, it's very well said. I often say like we live in the most technologically advanced era, but also one of the most sedentary eras, which is crazy to have
Yeah,
both of those. So yeah,
yeah.
what's the disconnect? What's the divide? Yeah, I think it is one of those things where, like I said, it like you said, it starts in the mind, and people have
Mhm.
this mindset of they're over indexing a little bit on exercise and under indexing on physical activity and just general movement. And I think
Mhm.
it makes sense in your head. It's like exercise. Everybody talks about exercise and strength training and all of these things. But guess what? The time you spend on exercise is actually trivial compared to how much time you just spend as a human overall. And so I
Yeah.
look at, okay, you have the 30 minutes in the gym or the hour in the gym. What are you doing with the other 23 hours? That's actually, to me, more important than what's happening in that 1 hour. So
Mm.
I
Mm.
always, kind of help people break apart. There's exercise and then there's physical activity. Those are not the same thing. Physical
Yeah.
activity could just be any activities of daily living, gardening, going for walks, doing all these things. But guess what? People have this stigma around, oh, that's not exercise. That doesn't count. And I'm like,
What?
everything counts. And so
Yeah.
I always say all movement counts, even when you aren't counting it. And we're big, I'm sure
Mm.
you got the aura ring too. We're big performance people.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
even the stuff that's not being picked up by your Aura or Apple Watch or Garmin or whatever, it's like those things matter just as much. And so I try to help people understand that all this movement is very, very beneficial. And I always bring up this study. There's a study by Dr. Aaliyah Crum out of Stanford. She works on what's called belief effects, what she calls belief effects. And she worked with these housemates and they would clean hotels and clean, all of these things. And she basically put accelerometers on them, heart rate monitors, and all these things and tracked how many calories they were burning, all the things they were doing, heart rate, blood pressure. And then She sat them down and was like, "Do you guys understand that what you're doing is exercise and physical activity, and you're burning calories and you're doing all these things?" Which they were like, "Oh, it's no, it's not. Like it doesn't feel like that." So she told them that, educated them on it, put them back into their environment. They did the same things, and guess what? Blood pressure was better, heart rate was better, weight was down, all of these different things just from knowing that what they're doing is valuable activity. You just talked about it. The
Whoa.
mind is a very, very powerful tool. And if we can get that on board, it is game changing. So that's my goal is like help people understand these things matter and we should be doing more of them. We should be getting out because you might not see it show up in everyday life in certain ways, but it is working. So I thought that was a good one to share.
Oh, that's an outstanding one to share. That is absolutely fascinating. I mean, I always speak to the power of the mind. I mean, I study behavioral psychology as a hobby, and as you heard, I mean,
Yeah.
I got to work alongside some pretty brilliant people there. But I mean,
Yeah.
I find that it's just a perfect example, a great anecdote. I mean, they didn't
Yeah.
change anything, but all of a sudden they bring awareness to the things that they're already doing, and things start
Yep.
to change. How
Yep.
fascinating is that? Like, we're not giving ourselves enough credit for the things that we are doing. Yeah, okay, now here's an interesting one because we know health is a
Yep.
major challenge today. How often do you run on the other end of the spectrum? And what I mean by that
Mhm.
is like this gave me a flashback. When I was in the health and wellness industry, we had specialty fitness stores. And I think back these days where we'd be doing this massive gym installation. And the equipment is not exactly light.
Oh
It's
yeah.
all extremely heavy, not designed to be moved or
Yep.
carried. I literally could have moved hundreds of thousands of pounds over the course of a day. And I would do that
Yep.
for 12 hours. And then my mindset was, if you actually just said it, I didn't get my workout in. And then I would
Yep.
go in and get a workout in after that. And
Oh
everybody else
yeah.
thought I was insane, which maybe I a little bit was. Now I'm a bit wiser and I'm like, okay, that was probably enough. But
Yep.
where those are great polarizing examples of where there's a
Yep.
harmony between. What would your takeaway be from that? Like
Yep.
what is the balance that people need to become more aware of, and the fact that
Yep.
that we actually, I want to add one more piece to this question, not to throw too much in it, but like you
Nope.
talk so much about the movement aspect, and as you were talking again, I started thinking about like when we work out, especially, and maybe this is more of a masculine thing, but like I tend to think about lifting weights as more linear movements, and not
Yep.
enough people are doing stuff in the ways that the body was actually meant to be used, which is through
Yep.
multiple planes of movement. Our joints are very dynamic. I mean, that's why,
Oh
you
yeah.
get out on a tennis court, it's like one of the best things we can do for the body and the mind. Like, talk a little bit
Yep.
about that between, one, polarity. How do we find this happy medium?
Yep.
And then that combination of awareness and different movement types. Like,
Yeah.
where do you get people to start? Like, what's
Yeah.
the journey you take people on?
Yeah. This is a great question. I got a lot of thoughts here. I think as far as the polarity works, I think I want people to do what's right for them and what fits for them and what's sustainable. And I think just understanding that that can look wildly different for every single person. And there's
Hmm.
no one set program. I always say the best program is the one you'll do consistently. And
Yep.
so we have
Exactly.
AI, we have all of these tools to build you the perfect program and all of that stuff. And then guess what? If you're not doing it, doesn't
Hmm.
mean squat. And so for
Yeah.
me, how can I meet you where you are? How can I prioritize something you brought up earlier, enjoyment? And I say the best program is something that includes a little bit of what you want and a little bit of what you need together. And so for me, I think a lot about, okay, what are the activities of daily living? What are the hobbies? Hiking, gardening, swimming, doing all of these things that might not look like traditional exercise. But guess what? They're putting our body through various shapes and positions that we need in daily life. Bending over to pick something up, picking something up off the ground, reaching up for your cabinet. It's like all of these motions. If you don't touch certain shapes and positions, your body is not going to prioritize or be ready for them. And so,
Hmm.
guess what? What is typically the position we're in for most of the day? It's sitting. And so we're sitting hunched over, neck forward, rounded back, turned off glutes, turned off quads, turned off hamstrings. That's what you're telling your body to prioritize by being in that position. And so, of course, you have the person who tries to go play in a rec league and boom, they tear their ACL. Or you have a person
Yeah.
that tries to go bend up to pick their kid and boom, their back goes out. Well, guess
Hmm.
what? You're not prioritizing for these positions. You're not putting
Hmm.
yourself in that. And so there are so many activities that are just more fluid movement, more daily
Hmm.
movement, as opposed to, and this is still great, being in the gym doing a specific movement on a machine or on a thing. It is great to have both. You need to
Hmm.
build local strength, but you also need to build fluid and general strength, just doing all of these different things. And not just strength, mobility, flexibility, all of these types of things. So for me, I start people with one of the simplest things I love is just walks. Get outside and go
Hmm.
walk more. I think it's free, it's accessible, it's scalable, it's easier to track. Like you don't even necessarily need a wearable. If you have your phone in your pocket, you can track it. You can kind of have proxies for all of that. And so people are like, okay, yeah, but Kyle, like walks, I need to be doing exercise. And I'm like, I guarantee you, you up your steps. I always mention the stat 1,000 extra steps above where you are right now per day is associated with a 23% reduction in mortality risk. That's
Dang.
like insane to think
Yeah.
about. And so
That's not much either.
that's not much. That's 10 to 15 minutes of walking a day
Yeah.
extra.
Yeah.
And so it's like
Wow.
for me, where are these little injections that you can have so that it becomes a lifestyle, so that it's sustainable for you? If I tell you, all right, you got to do 5 days of strength training and you got to go into a gym and you're a person that doesn't like the gym and you don't like strength training, it's going to turn you off. You're not going to sustain that for the rest of your life. And so I have to meet people where they are. I've worked with athletes, high level executives that have no time, parents. I've worked with youth athletes, totally different approach. And I take the approach that's best for the person in front of me. And so some coaches, they try and ram their principles down a person's throat. And some coaches have principles that they go into it with, but they flex and fluid and make sure that they mold to that person. And for
Mhm.
me, it is so important to take a personalized approach. There are foundational things that I think can work for multiple people, but you have to make sure that, again, you're meeting someone where they are. You have to make sure that you're setting up things that are sustainable, are accessible, are digestible, are practical. Because if not, you're kind of you're in a world where we see it nowadays. Nutrition, fitness, it's like 30-day abs or this diet will get you where you want to be. But it's like I talk to people and I'm like, okay, that diet's great. Like, what are you going to do after that? And they're like, oh, I'll just go back to normal. I'm like, well, what do you think is going to happen when you go back to normal? You're going to get back to the same problems and things you had before. So for me, consistency is a huge principle. And I think when it comes to just getting people moving more, there are simple tools: walking more, standing more, doing more things you enjoy, getting outside more, exercise snacks, simple tools. And guess what? Like you said earlier in the call, like I have put so much time and energy to building credential behind my name in terms of certifications and all of the things. We call it like the alphabet soup after your name. Everybody's like, what do all those
Yeah.
letters mean? I'm like, it means I dedicate myself to my craft and I want to be as up to date on the research. I want to be as up to date and credible with what I do.
Mhm.
And that helps you understand Kyle cares about what he does. He's not just like, oh, I got a weekend cert and I'm ready to now train you. And so,
Yeah.
anyway, with all of that, there's so many different tools that we have because we've gone through all of these certifications, because we know the space so well.
Hmm.
I'm not stuck to, ooh, I've only been certified by one body and they told me to do it this way, so I have to do it this way. It's like, no,
Hmm.
I can pull from experience. And guess
Hmm.
what? Better than any certification that I've gotten is
Hmm.
working with the hundreds of thousands of people that I've worked with online and in person and solving problems
100%.
that are in no textbook. And so that's what I
100%.
love.
Dude, I love that. I love that. I mean, there's so many things I could peel back the onion on there. I love that relatability. And you talk about
Mhm.
the fact that we get stuck in one position, we shut the whole body down. I mean, there's two pieces of that. We shut the whole body down, then you get up, the back goes out. I mean, there's all it takes is one neuromuscular misfire and one miscommunication
Yep.
between the mind and the muscles because we close down those pathways and boom, the back goes out. And but the other side of it is too, there's the other physiological components that people don't think about. They wonder why they're feeling stressed all the time. They wonder why they're anxious. Well, when you're sitting like this, you're closing the whole body off. Are you taking deep breaths from this position? No. We got to stand up. You're standing right now as we're having
Yep.
this conversation. I have
Yep.
better energy when I'm standing. My shoulders are back. I can breathe
Yep.
deeper. And guess what? When we breathe, all of a sudden the body and mind start to breathe and they start to
Mhm.
relax and we can let go of that stress. Because I know so many people are thinking, I'm busy. I'm building businesses. We're raising families, working long hours. You're trying to do everything. They feel exhausted. But what I love about your message is find the things that you enjoy doing and do more of it. It's like, yeah, your best friend might have go done the military boot camp thing and crushed it and they absolutely love it, but you might hate it. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
it's right or wrong. It means it works for them. You got to
Yeah.
find the things that you enjoy doing. It's finding the joy in the emotion. I mean, I think
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest takeaways is not to overcomplicate things. Look for where we can create more movement through the things that we already need to do, getting things done, and just
Yeah.
get the body moving more. Now,
Yeah.
you wrote the Vitality System. I mean, what inspired the book? Like, what problem were you trying to
Yeah.
solve?
Yeah, this was a big undertaking. I did not see myself as a writer, but
Yeah.
you overcome that imposter syndrome by learning, by doing, by experiencing, and all of that. And so, this was like before AI, but right before COVID. I started writing this book because I looked at a lot of the health and wellness space, and you can find a lot of like niche books or books that go deep in one topic on sleep, on nutrition, on a diet, on a movement type of program or plan. I didn't really find many books that talked about all of those things in a framework that helped you understand why all of these things matter. And guess what? All of these things depend on each other. People are like, okay, Kyle, like I want to improve my movement or I want to do better with nutrition, but they're sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night. I'm like, stop right there. Full stop. Let's get on sleep. Because if you're not sleeping, none of it is going to matter. And so for me, I didn't find a book that talked about all of these categories in an integrative framework, but also in a simple and digestible way that wasn't very science heavy, very rigorous, like over top of kind of the general population. So that was my goal, which is a daunting task of like, how do you talk about all of health and wellness and how it all plays together in a book? I called it the Vitality System. Again, a system that works together, that's fluid, that's flexible, and that people could pick up the book and feel like, you know what? I am now literate on health and wellness, and I can navigate my environment a little bit better, as opposed to navigating what is a very noisy, scary, marketing heavy, fear based just environment that is health and wellness. There's new products popping up every day. There's new villains every day. Something's going to kill you every time I go on Instagram or LinkedIn. And it's just like for me, I want people to have a resource that they could go to and be like, you know what? I actually want to learn more about environment, or I want to learn more about sleep, or I want to learn more about nutrition. They could go to a resource and have something that makes them feel a little bit more confident. And again, I try to write in an unbiased way. There are things in that book that was written 4 or 5 years ago that I'm like, oh my God, it's already evolved. It's already
I
changed. And so
know.
I have to come out with another version because it's like, that's the beauty of it is like, it is ever changing. And if you aren't staying up with it, this is a resource to say, hey, look, you don't have to know everything, but do you know the baseline of all of these things?
You know, you know what's so crazy about this, Kyle? I literally started writing a book with the exact same mentality, all the aspects of health and wellness and how to create the integration. I got about
Yep.
80% of the way through over a 2-year period, and I started looking at it and going, crap, I don't believe out this stuff anymore. And then I started writing again, and then life took me a completely different direction. So the fact that you finished
Yeah.
it, one, I love. The fact that you're now thinking about part two, love that even more. But
Yeah.
what I hope everybody
Yeah.
hears is it's the importance of integration. It's like I look at it this way. It's like you go to the doctor. The doctor is going to prescribe medication. You go to a surgeon, surgeon is going to say cut. You go to a naturopath's going to say eat your vegetables, right? I mean, like
Yeah.
obviously I'm being gross generalizations, but it's that
Yeah.
same principle as people execute on the things that they know, but that's not necessarily knowing what is best for the person. And what I
Yeah.
love about what you're doing is you're going, all right, let's look at the lowest hanging fruit, or maybe it's the biggest challenge at this particular point,
Yeah.
and we start there. And I think that's a good, important way to look at it too, is sometimes it's the thing that you are willing to do first, because motion, we
Yeah.
got body motion stays in motion. We got to start doing that thing.
Yeah.
And then sometimes it's the thing that we need to prioritize first because if we don't resolve that, like sleep, then everything else
Yeah.
is going to be a disaster regardless. But brother, thank you for putting that together. And I love
Yeah.
the fact that The volume two is already in the works. I mean, now
Yep.
when we were just saying, you say movement creates energy.
Yep.
Explain that. Like why has movement become something we just schedule instead of live? Like what happens
Yep.
physiologically when movement disappears? What happens
Yep.
psychologically? Like paint that picture for
Yep.
our listeners.
Yeah, I was writing my new book, and it's called Move, Thrive, Come Alive. And I was writing this book, and I kept coming back to this feeling of like, whenever I move, I feel better afterwards. Like that is like anecdotally, almost 100% of the time when I move, I feel
100%.
better. And
Hmm.
I challenged a lot of the people that I worked with. I'd say like, you maybe you don't love exercise, you don't love, but when you do it, how do you feel after? And like, oh, I feel great. I have more energy. I did it, and I'm like,
Hmm.
So I like there's this kind of thought or this prevailing wisdom that like that goes around of like when I move, it's a cost of energy. And I'm like, that's not what I experience when I what I experience is like I actually create energy and I feel more energy, whether it's neural energy, whether it's physical energy. Yes, sometimes I'll go through a grueling workout and I'm a little bit like beat up like physically. But even I did a high rocks in February. I finished the High Rocks. I was amped. I was so excited. The energy, the atmosphere. I had just gone through one of the most physically demanding things, but like I felt energy. And so this concept makes a ton of sense when you look at the research in terms of exercise is constantly, and physical activity too, is constantly associated with better blood flow, less inflammation, increased productivity, increased resilience. Down the line, you can just keep going and going. And so for me, it's this concept of like, hormesis, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. In the moment, exercise is doing things that you would look at and be like, oh my God, red flag, my blood pressure is raised, my heart rate is raised, this is happening, there's inflammation, there's stress. But guess what happens after? Your body says, ooh, I got to be ready for this next time it comes up. It builds better, your increased mitochondria, increased blood flow, and those are all incredibly good for you. And then on the neural side, of course, there's research behind that endorphins, endocannabinoids, dopamine, all of these things are increased when you exercise. Of course, you would feel good. Your body's natural feel good chemicals are all going through the roof when you exercise. And so, for me, helping people understand that logic of like, hey, you want more energy? Guess where you can find it? Go for a walk, see how you feel after. And even for me, my wife always thinks I'm crazy, and my dog always thinks I'm crazy because I'll do like exercise snacks where sometimes I'll be writing and I'll get into a little lull and I'll just stand up and I'll bang out 5 squats, I'll do 5 lunges, and then I'll do 5 push-ups. And like the blood's flowing, you feel better, and my mind is clear. And so just
Yeah.
something as simple as that, when you actually think about what's happening when you're stagnant, blood flow is stagnant, you're building, it's inflammation, your joints are getting stiffer. It's just all kind of bad for the body when you're thinking about being in one position. And I also challenge people, even if you have a standing desk and you're just stagnant there, that's the same thing. But me and you are both standing. You can see us both moving. You can see us both changing our posture, using our arms. That's a result of just standing and being, people that are trying to just grease the gears, like you said. It's like it happens
Yeah.
naturally. I also challenge people, sit on the ground for 30 minutes. See how much you move when you're sitting on the ground without a chair, without anything. So anyway, all of these things just come back to, do you feel better after you move? Yes or no? That should be the evidence enough of like I should be doing this more because it creates the things that I want, which is being more effective, being more present, being more energetic with all my interactions.
One of the biggest takeaways I just took from that one is, well, there's two things. I'm like, I always figured it's just because I'm ADD and then I'm also a really super animated person. But when you put a little
Yeah.
bit more of a container around it, I think there's truth to that. I know my body organically knows I got to just keep moving. But
Yeah.
the other thing that I like though is like the simplicity in what you just pointed out. Most people start sitting, they recognize they're sitting. They're like, I don't have time to get up and go for a walk. You don't need time. How long does it take you to stand up, do 5 push-ups, 5 squats? What was the other five?
5 push-ups. And you can do those with
Yeah,
your desk. Lunges, push-ups, squats,
yeah,
whatever the movements are. 30
yeah.
seconds to 45 seconds. That's it.
Boom.
Done.
Can we all squeeze 30 seconds in? I mean,
Yeah.
and again, it starts priming the body because people don't think about it. It's like Our heart is a pump, right? Like we've
Yep.
got to keep everything moving, but it's not just the heart. You know, we have veins and capillaries, and guess what
Yep.
happens when we don't move? Those things start to shrink and collapse. We got to keep those lines open.
Yep.
We got to keep everything flexing and mobile. The
Yep.
muscles, like everything is so important. The body in motion stays in motion. Now,
Yep.
you talk about reclaiming ownership and agency over health. Like, why do you feel like that's important, and where have we
Yep.
outsourced too much responsibility?
Yeah, this is a huge one. I am passionate about this one. This is why I love science communication because I think there's so much noise and misinformation out there that I think pushes people towards thinking they need a product, a service, a person to reach their goals. And I always advocate people towards the best things that we can do are free. Get outside, go for a walk, get some sunlight, go to sleep on time. All of these things are free. We have access to them. We don't need a special gadget. We don't need an app. We don't need all of these fancy things to achieve some of these things. And so that's one. It's like it's a tough marketing world out there. Marketing, they're paid a lot of money to get in our brains. We spend a lot of time on screens, social media, TV, and it can be easy to fall into that trap. But I think generally speaking, I want to educate people. That's the first line of defense is when you're educated, you understand, okay, maybe I need this or I don't need that. I can navigate this complex environment. I can make a good decision. All I ask people is like, can you make more informed decisions more often than not? And so nobody wants to live in a world that's perfect. Nobody, and maybe Brian Johnson, but nobody wants to live in this world where you have to eat everything perfectly. You have to go to sleep on time every night. You have to move in this certain way every day. That's not the world we want to live in. But guess what? You don't even need that. Try 70% of the time, try 80% of the time. I guarantee you it'll change your life. And backing up a little bit because it just popped into my head, we were talking about time and 30 seconds and all of these things. I always tell people this CDC recommends 150 minutes of moderate exercise a week. Okay. Take that 150 minutes. There are over 10,000 minutes in a week, but you can look at it at hours. Breaking that 150 minutes out of the 10,000 hours or 10,000 minutes is 1% of your week. Can you dedicate 1% of your week to exercise and activity? That to me is like that's a no-brainer. That's like I should be spending way more than 1% of my week on that. And when I give people that, it's like this isn't a time problem. This is a priority problem.
Yeah.
And I
Hmm.
think check your screen time on your iPhone or whatever. Check your screen time. I can guarantee you it's an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours or 4 hours or higher. Check how much time you spend on social media, how much time you spend on email. Again, it's not a time problem, it's more of a priority problem. And that's why I call it the rule of 1%. It's like 1% of your time can change 100% of your life. And I
Yeah.
think when people start to internalize that, it's like a look in the mirror moment of like, oof, yeah, I should probably spend more than 1% of my time on this super, super important thing that can change my life, my mindset, my health. And so, again, I think back to your question, it's just really helping educate people, really helping people feel confident and empowered to understand how to make more informed decisions more time. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's not every time, it's not all the time. More of the time, can you make those better decisions?
Yeah. I love that. 1% of your time can change 100% of your life. That is such a great way to look at it. And it's so
Yeah.
simple and so objective. Now, Kyle, as we wrap up today's episode, I mean,
Yeah.
if you could give someone one piece of health advice that would improve the rest of their life. And I know this is like that question that just, I mean,
Yeah.
it's like this is a hard question. But if you could give them one, what would that be?
Yeah, this is a big one. I would say is to start where you are and to elongate that of starting where you are of like kind of running your own race and not getting too caught up with what you're seeing or your friends or all of that. I always also say something that sticks with people is be clear with where you want to go, but flexible in how you get there. And so I think it's super, super important to like understand where, but know that there's so many different paths, so many different ways, and to not get too caught up in I have to do it this way because this is what I saw on social media or my friend or this thing or that thing. And so that is one that always resonates with me. And the last piece I'll put in there because I think it's so important is like we talked in the beginning. I think before we recorded, we were just talking about purpose and why and some of those things. And like if you can just sit down with yourself and understand why do I want to be healthy and really grill yourself to get deeper and peel back layers of why do I want to be healthy? Ask yourself why again. Ask yourself why again. Keep going down. When things get hard, when motivation wanes, which things will get hard, behavior
Mm,
change is very hard. Motivation is not always going to be there. What can you call on? For me, I know I want to be a better parent, a better partner, a better friend, a better coworker, a better science communicator. And I want to be present for my 18-month-old son and for my wife and for my dog. I want to bring energy to all of my interactions. I want to set a good example for my family. Those things, whether it's a rainy day, whether it's travel, whether it's a hard work day, it does not matter. When I think of those things, it pales in comparison to what I want for that and those
mhm,
goals. And so I can
mhm.
show up when it's hard because I know what's happening internally and that flame is lit of like, no, Kyle, you have a bigger purpose for all of this. And so as the saying goes, you can bear any how when you know your why. And so again, when
Yeah.
you know your why, you can really grit through a lot of stuff. So
Yeah.
long-winded answer, but I thought it was important to get all those out.
No, I totally agree. I mean, one, I always say fuzzy targets don't get hit, right? We got to get clear on
Oh,
our outcomes.
love it.
And you almost said it near word for word. The exact quote I use all the time is we have to be resolute in our outcomes, but flexible in our approach.
Oh,
Because
man.
there's so many different ways. And actually, sometimes we need to be flexible in those outcomes too, because you
Yeah.
might find fulfillment comes from a slightly different place than the expectations we had for ourselves. I mean, if we can trade our expectations for appreciation, that makes the process a hell of a lot more fluid. And the importance of why, brother, like I love you started leaning into 7 levels deep. I mean, the more
Yeah.
we can get deeper into those whys, and it works even better, y'all, if you guys have somebody actually ask you the questions. We tend to stay in our head. And another thing I would say, stay in your head, you're dead. You got to tap into the heart.
Yeah.
Have somebody ask you those questions and get a layer deeper each time. And when you hit emotion, when the tears come up in the eyes, now we found what's real. And when we
Yeah.
can stick with that, that becomes, instead of that anchor, that propeller. Now,
Yeah.
Kyle, last question I got to ask. We got to squeeze this in. Give me this in 60
Yeah.
seconds. Like,
Yeah.
imagine it's decades from now. People
Yeah.
you've coached, the readers of your books, your family, your friends, colleagues, they're reflecting on your life. What do you hope they say your life's work stood for?
Yeah, I hope they say that my life's work stood for helping people to redefine what it means to be healthy on their own terms. And I hope that it stands for helping to empower people to live healthier, happier, more active lives and more present lives. And so, yeah, that's what my work is all about, and that's what my mission is. And I'm gonna continue writing books and doing podcasts and creating, ways to help people get to those places. And because when you do, you get access to your life back, and there's nothing better.
Yeah,
There's no better
yeah.
investment you can make in yourself, and there's no better gift you can give someone else than empowerment in their health. So that's what it's all about for me.
I love that, brother. But now, Kyle, for our listeners who want to learn more about your work, your books, your newsletter, I mean, everything you're building, where can they find you? I mean, you got the
Yeah.
Vitality System, you have the Vitality System
Mhm.
podcast, you have your
Yeah.
newsletter, working with
Yeah.
COIA.
Yeah.
Where's the best places to find you, brother?
Yeah, I'd say Instagram or LinkedIn. On Instagram, it's Kyle Gonzalez 3. On LinkedIn, you're just finding me on LinkedIn at Kyle Gonzalez. But yeah, it's been an incredible journey. I will scream from the rooftops about health and wellness in any way, shape, or form I'm given. And it's been awesome. I just came out with the new book, Move, Thrive, and Come Alive, based
Mm,
on the principles we've talked about, trying to get people to
so
move more, live fully, be present, and just giving them practical tips, tools, and habits to apply to be practical in their everyday life. And so Yeah, it's awesome to see the reception for that and the feedback for it all. But I appreciate you. I feel like we're kindred spirits, and I
Yeah,
don't know, maybe we knew each other in a different life because it
I
seems like we got a lot of synergies and a lot of similarities. But
know.
it's been a pleasure to talk and to just go through these things because I think it's important. And I think I need to hear them a lot of the time. And I've been
Yeah.
in this space for over a decade, and so I can only imagine what it's like for everybody else.
Yeah, yeah. No, I wholeheartedly agree, Cobb. And this has been an incredible conversation. One of my biggest takeaways that I hope everybody really heard and connected with is that health isn't just about living longer. It's about living better. You know, it's about having the energy to show up for your family, pursue meaningful work, build great relationships, and make an impact. And ultimately, to fully experience life. Because we all got to remember, growth isn't just about what we achieve. It's about who we become along the way, and it's measured by how fully we live. So, Kyle, thank you for sharing your wisdom, your passion, and your mission with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure, my friend, and look forward to having you back sometime in the future.
Zach, appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for giving me the platform. It's been a pleasure for sure.